Welcome to the whimsical realm of the Sisters of the Shire podcast, where mirth and merriment meet the extraordinary world of J.R.R. Tolkien, or Tolkien, whatever you prefer. We are currently in the middle of the final chapter of the Silmarillion, but if you are joining us for the first time, you might want to start from the beginning instead. So trust us, it will make things a lot easier to understand because that's what we do. We're here to be your guides.
I, Ashley, will tell the Hobbit-sized version of this story to my cousin and lovely co-host, Abby. And
Hello.
Together, we're going to help you remember all those pesky place names and every character beginning with the letter F and
There's so many.
T and all of those. All of us sound alike. They're rhyming names. Tuor,
They change them.
Horin, and Thurin. And by the way, he got a cool nickname. And yeah, he got rebranded. And yeah, it's a whole thing.
Well, our quest is to make it fun and easy to understand as we make our way through the world of the great J.R.R. Tolkien. So, come on, let's go. Let's go do it.
Let's do this. But before we do, happy birthday, Abby.
Well, happy birthday to us.
Happy birthday,
my birthday
to the podcast.
To us. Happy birthday to us. It's our podcast birthday. We did it. Hooray.
We did it. 1 year ago today, we released our first episode.
One successful trip around the sun.
We did it. I am currently working on I think in the podcast world, they call it remastering, is when you like go back and like, oh, wow, I did not know what I was doing when I was editing. So I'm working on it, guys. I did our intro episode the other day, but I need to do episode 1 again.
We're putting out a remastered album?
Yes.
Whoa.
We're that cool. We're that cool. So how are you? What's new in your world?
I'm just gearing up to celebrate my baby's 2nd birthday. I can't. It's too soon.
He's 2?
He's gonna be 2 in less than a week.
What?
I know. I know. It's hard for my mama heart.
Yeah, those birthdays are the hardest, not gonna lie. I'm sorry.
I know. I think
there.
the 2nd birthday is like, oh, you're really like not a baby anymore. Like,
right. Yeah.
It's just like, ooh. But
yeah.
If everything goes to plan, because I have, big plans, I say.
Mm-hmm.
If everything goes to plan, because we did not get to celebrate a big birthday for his 1st birthday. Because we all had COVID. So that was pretty fun. Even he had COVID. It was so sad.
What's the theme? I need to know the theme.
Disneyland. I know. I'm
like,
really
can
excited.
I make it down there? How long would it take for me to drive down there?
I'm going to get churros. And I'm going to get popcorn and...
corn dogs? That's like one of these.
I know, that'd be good too. But I'm gonna have Mickey Rice Krispie treats. And
nice.
It's a baby party. He's only 2,
right.
And then we're inviting all our little friends who are also 2 or turning 2.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just gonna be a cute, fun little baby party.
I need all of the pictures and all of the videos, please.
I'm excited. My little dude loves Mickey Mouse, and he loves like anything Disney, like fun, like Disneyland.
I wonder how that happened. So random.
But he just for some reason took off with loving Mickey Mouse. If he sees that silhouette anywhere, he's like, but he has to say it with such a high-pitched voice. He goes,
Mickey Mouse. Oh, yeah. I showed you that website, right? I feel like the Disney lovers of the world need to know about this website. He used to have a podcast, but then he had some kind of like licensing issue or something. So you go to soundsofdisneyland.com. It is amazing.
Did I show that?
I showed it to you.
I showed it to you.
I showed it to you. Anyways, So for the people that don't know about it, you basically can pick a land, a ride, whatever you want. I had it on shuffle the other day and I was like talking to my husband with like an earbud in and I'm like, where am I? He's like, what? I'm like, no. Like, where in Disneyland am I? And he's like, what? Turns out I was at the Bengal barbecue.
He's losing it.
And then the other day when I was doing my outline, I was in Pixie Hollow. So, I mean, like, it's all the ride music, all the ambiance music, all in one place. And it's amazing.
Nice.
But speaking of music, we need to get to the matter at hand because
music.
We got stuff to do today. Let's get down to business.
Ooh.
Kind
I'm
of
nervous.
Nice. Yeah, be a little nervous. So, what happened last week? Do you remember? We're just getting to know Earendil,
the son of Tur, right?
Yes.
So he fell in love with the ocean, but he also fell in love with a human or a real person,
an elf, Maiar man, person, woman.
So he fell in love with what's her name?
Elwing.
Elwing.
Mm-hmm.
And she had twins.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is my boy, Elrond.
Mm-hmm.
And
Elros is the other one.
Elros, I was going to say. Shout out to the other twin that doesn't get any credit for doing anything.
Oh, he'll get his credit next month or next week. Next 2 weeks. Something like that.
There was a big battle, I'm assuming, or ambush or something.
Calamity, catastrophe,
horribleness, where they all got, well, no, first off, Earendil, am I saying that right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Is out on sea because he loves the ocean too much. He just can't stay on land. He can't even stay with his family. He's like, I just gotta be out in the ocean. And so he's gone when this calamity happens. And I have the things in my head, but I don't know which order it goes in. The twins get separated.
So
from their family.
They get like kidnapped, taken captive.
And
by the sons of Fëanor, who have learned that Elwing is still alive and still has the Noglamir. They're like, oh yeah, we need that. We want that back. Please. And
their deal is
okay.
They're cool with killing kids for some reason.
The other brothers were, but Maedhros and Maglor, they just, I don't know why they took them captive, but they actually like, you know what? This isn't cool. We'll be nice to you guys. They actually were pretty safe with them. But.
The ones that are like cool with hurting and abandoning children remind me of a character. I mean, not a specific character, but just like a character from Game of Thrones that just like would not care. I don't care how old you are.
But luckily, those brothers have already died. But sadly, the twins, who we know very little about, Amrod and Amras, they did die in this calamity. So the only sons of Fëanor left are Maedhros and Maglor. And together they kind of take care of the twins that they had taken captive, Elros and Elrond.
So they take care of them?
Mm-hmm.
And raise them?
They kind of adopt them, yeah. It doesn't say in this book at what point they separate. I mean, it will say it a little bit later, but there's not a ton of detail about what life was like for them and how old they were when, other things end up happening. But yeah.
Is it kind of like Stockholm Syndrome?
There's a lot of funny memes out there. Like there's one of like, okay, those are not your fathers, but they saved us. They murdered everyone else, but they saved us. They murdered.
They actually were kidnapping you and were planning on killing you, but then they second guessed themselves and said, maybe not today. And then you're like, Dad! Second dad!
Yeah. So amidst the chaos and calamity of the Sons of Fëanor taking them captive and trying to get the Silmaril back, Elwing, with the Silmaril, throws herself into the ocean. This is very unclear. I wish Tolkien had been a bit more detailed about that? Like, is she trying to like save the Noglamir from it getting into the hands of the Sons of Fëanor, but then just throw the Noglamir into the ocean without you? Or maybe she's sad that her sons were taken captive, but like, okay, then why kill? Just do something about it. But anyways, sorry, Elwing, I'm judging you, but whatever. But Ulmo saves her and turns into a bird, because that's the thing now. And with the Noglamir on her bird chest, she goes and flies to Earendil, who's out sailing around, and eventually finds him and passes out, still in bird form, on the deck of his ship.
I want the scene of that and be like, whoa, that's a pretty cool bird. He's like looking out over the bow of the ship. He's like, whoa, okay, it's not slowing down. It's not slowing down.
You know what it reminds me?
Hits him that he like the scene in Elf where the raccoon just like hits him in the face.
Yes. I was also thinking of Errol from Harry Potter, that like it just like cannot fly straight and well, and it just like runs into everything.
Yeah.
So Earendil, instead of being like weirded out, he's like, Bird now my friend. I sleep with Bird tonight. And together they cuddle up.
I'm so lonely. I love the sea, but it doesn't love me back. It gave me a bird.
So they cuddle up together, and when they wake up in the morning, she's now in human form. And so she tells Earendil all about what happened at the havens of Sirion, and that their boys have been kidnapped, and that the Sons of Fëanor are bad boys. And Earendil's like, ugh, I am so done with the people of Middle Earth. Why can't we all just get along? You know what? I'm going to even try harder to find the Valar in Valinor now, because someone needs to do something. Yeah, basically. But now Earendil has the Silmaril with him that Elwing had brought with her, and apparently he wears it now because that's a thing. And somehow he also made it into a crown. It's not very clear. Is it still the Noglamir at this point? And he just like, I'm going to put this pretty bejeweled thing on my head, or did they somehow take it out? I don't know what the transformation was of that, but
I'm saying it has the magic of like the one ring where it can change size. I
know, but what about the other jewels? Apparently it was like a bejeweled like collar almost.
Yeah, it just turned into a cool crown. Duh.
Well, anyways, they're basically able to use the Silmaril and Elwing's now crown as basically like a beacon and a compass, because somehow it gets brighter as they're making their way to Valinor. And they're able to get past all the enchantments and all the shadows and all the things that were preventing them to getting to Valinor before. And they eventually make it to Valinor. They did it. They did the darn thing.
Is there any explanation of how she turned into a bird?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I've got questions about that later. Don't just you wait. So we're just going to pick right up where we left off. Quote, then Earendil, first of living men, landed on the immortal shores.
And he instantly went up in flames because he's not allowed there.
Not quite. So just a reminder that on this ship are Earendil, Elwing, his wife, and his 3 shipmates, who I would tell you their names, but we know too many names already. So. Also, a reminder that as far as the elves and men of Middle Earth are aware, the Valar might exist, but the fact that they have made themselves so hard to find and haven't helped them at all has given them a feeling that the Valar are like mad at them.
Yeah, I mean, I get it.
So when they land, the first thing that Earendil says is like, hold on. If the Valar are going to get angry at us for coming here, I don't want them to be mad at you too. So, quote, here none but myself shall set foot, lest you fall under the wrath of the Valar. But that peril I will take on myself alone, for the sake of the 2 kindreds.
Huh. Okay.
So the 2 kindreds meaning the races of elves and men. Like, I kind of get this game plan, but also feel like maybe he's just getting tired of Elwing again and just wants some space away from her.
Oh gosh.
That's just the vibe I'm getting. I don't know. Like I said, I don't.
Maybe she's really clingy. Maybe through all her trauma, she's now really
vibe.
clingy, and so he's like, "Gah."
Yes. Well, speaking of clingy, of course she doesn't want to be away from him, so she tells him, quote, "Then our paths would be sundered forever. But all thy perils I will take on myself also."
Oh. Do they like
nice try, Earendil.
Like her?
This is my thing. I don't get their relationship. So, nice try, Earendil. You can't just leave your wife to go off on your adventures again. She even like leaps out of the boat and runs to him. Like, she is coming with you. I'm going to Valinor. Of course you are. And I'm coming with you.
Yeah.
Quote, "But Earendil was sorrowful, for he feared the anger of the lords of the West, the Valar, upon any of Middle-earth that should dare to pass the leaguer of Aemon." Basically, their enchantment.
Okay, pause for a second. Did you ever see, I think it's Emma? There's a couple, and it's Hugh Laurie.
Yes.
And his wife is the lady who plays Professor Umbridge in the movies.
Oh, why does that just work for this? I don't know why.
And
Umbridge
she isn't
like, Elwing, but somehow
oh my
that
gosh,
vibe.
What is it? She's like, oh my gosh, now I have to figure it out because he just sits there like reading his paper like, woman, please stop.
Well, it's even like Mr. Bennett and Mrs. Bennett.
He loves her.
I have no sake for my poor nerves.
Yeah. She like is freaking out all the time. It's Sense and Sensibility. That's it. Sense
there you
and Sensibility. Go. Mr. Palmer, that's his name. Mr. Palmer. Okay. And she's always like, "What did you hear about this, Mr. Palmer? Oh my gosh, I can't believe it." And he's like, "Okay, yeah." Woohoo.
Very Mr. Bennett too.
Oh my gosh. That's the vibe I'm getting, is that she loves him so much. And he's like, "Okay, well, I love you too, but I need my space."
Yeah. Anyways, so Earendil is like, "Okay, Elwing, I guess you can come, but the Valar are going to be so mad if you do." Like, oh no.
He's like, I don't know if you're like on the list to like come in here.
So Elwing and Earendil leave his 3 shipmates on the boat and they start making their way onto the beach. But I also feel like Earendil kind of just let Elwing tag along because he didn't want to fight in front of his buddies, which we've all been there. Like, let's just go over here and then we will have a discussion
about it later.
Yeah. Because after a while of walking, he says, quote, "Await me here, for only one may bring the message that it is my fate to bear."
So, but
he lets her get onto the land. And then he's like, "Wait, no, well, you can't go with me any further."
Oh my gosh, he does not like her.
Right? Okay. But I can also see Elwing, like, okay, not in the excitable, clingy version, but just like, if it was me, I would be like deadpan face and just like, "You just made that up just to leave me again, didn't you?" Like,
he doesn't even care about his kids. Where are his kids?
And then, or the other version of the clingy would be like, "We never get to do anything together anymore."
Okay, so I just looked up the quotes from Sense and Sensibility of those two, the Mr. and Mrs. Palmer, and one of them was like, "Oh, only if this rain would stop." And then he goes, "If only you would stop." And then she's like, "She'll be wet through and through when she returns." "Yes, thank you for pointing that out, my dear." Or she's like exaggerating a bunch of stuff. She's like, "Mrs. Dashwood, if only Mr. Willoughby had gone home, we could take Miss Marianne to see him. We only live half a mile away." And he's like, "We live 5.5 miles away." She's like, "No, I can't believe it's that far. You can see the place from the top of our hill. Really? It's a 5.5? No, I cannot believe it. No, I can't." And he's like, "Try."
Hugh Laurie is actually pretty perfect.
I know. That's the relationship I see, is like her being like, "Oh, I can't believe it. No way." And he's like, "Stop. Like,
Yeah.
no.
Well, for some reason, she does agree to stay behind. Like,
Okay.
after
Do you
all
think
that.
do you think she finally was like, okay, well, I went all this way. I turned into a bird to come
Yeah.
find you, and you're ditching me again. Do you think that she just kind of realized, like, oh, I don't think you really liked me all that much?
I don't understand their relationship. And maybe it's like, oh, you do have my interests at heart. What if the Valar were to punish you? You're just trying to protect me.
You know, this is our side. This is what we're saying. Maybe people are saying, like, he loves her
What a
so
good husband.
much.
Yeah.
He loves her so much and he doesn't want her to be. It's that, like, old trope of, like, no, you can't come with me. Like, when they spend the night together and before, like, some deadly epic showdown, and then, like, he leaves before she wakes up and he's gone because he wants to
Yeah.
face it alone.
Okay, but then why not leave her on the ship with his buddies protecting her? Like, yeah.
And wouldn't she be more eligible to go to the Valar since she's like part Maiar?
Right? Like, you just want all the credit, don't you? Like,
Yeah.
so, anyways, for whatever reason, she decides to, okay, fine, I'll stay. You go ahead. So Earendil starts walking, and we're going to start hearing some familiar place names. Are you ready for these? How many of these are you going to remember?
Okay, so he's on Valinor right now.
Yes.
Okay.
The place that they land, like the beach, is on Eldamar. Do you remember what Eldamar is?
Is that where they had all the pretty rocks?
Yes.
And
so
pearls
Eldamar is
and-
kind of, yeah. Well, the pearls were more the Teleri, but the Eldamar is kind of where most of the Noldor ended up, like Fëanor.
Okay.
Then he makes his way to the Calasyria, which is that kind of gap in the mountain range on Valinor where the elves could travel to and from Eldamar to the main city of Valinor where the Valar live. And
Is
when
that
the
where
two
they
trees
could
were there.
see the tree light through it?
Yeah. All the while, Earendil is just wandering around these cities and these places, and, quote, it seemed to him empty and silent.
You know what he should have said to her before he left? I'm a loner, Dottie, a rebel. It's like, you can't come with me.
So everything is just quiet and empty. He doesn't see anyone or hear anything. Earendil just keeps going further. He climbs the green hill with the ridiculous name. Do you remember the name?
Tuna.
Still doesn't find anyone. Then he comes to the city of Tirion on top of the hill Tuna. If you remember, that's the tower-like city that Turgon had actually remembered so fondly that he built Gondolin kind of in tribute to it. And still, the entire city is empty. No one.
Huh.
Also, if you remember, like you said, on Valinor, they had an abundance of jewels and gems. So as Earendil is just walking along, he is literally getting dusty with all the diamond dust he is walking through.
Whoa, what the heck? That's awesome.
Yeah. So with his diamond dusting and wearing his Silmaril crown, he's like all shiny and sparkly.
This is the skin of a killer, Bella.
So he starts calling out to anyone who can hear him. He's like, hello, is anyone home?
Marco?
Yeah.
Polo?
And nothing. No one answers.
They're all partying at the Valar day
Oh my
spa.
gosh. Maybe. Quote, and his heart was heavy, for he feared that some evil had come even to the blessed realm. And he called aloud in many tongues, both of elves and men, but there were none to answer him. Therefore,
he died,
he turned...
and this is purgatory.
It's like Lost. Yeah. Therefore, he turned back at last towards the sea.
His true love.
Mm-hmm. So Earendil's genuinely worried that this last hope of the race of elves and men to save them from Morgoth and all the drama of Middle-earth, they're gone. Maybe Morgoth got to them a long time ago. Maybe they're dead. Maybe they've moved on. I don't know. They're not here. Yeah. So I guess that's that. Time to turn around and head home then, I guess. But then...
He gives up on a lot of things.
Right?
His kids, his wife.
I'm just saying, Valinor's pretty big. He hasn't even, like, passed through the mountain range of the Calaseria. Like, Tyrion is on the mountain range, basically, in the gap. He didn't even go through. He didn't even really explore Valinor.
Well, and guys, then he just... it's empty.
Yeah.
You gotta go.
Yeah. So, as he's turning around to head home, quote, "Even as he took the shoreward road, one stood upon the hill and called to him in a great voice, crying, 'Hail, Earendil, of mariners most renowned, the looked for that cometh at unawares, the longed for that cometh beyond hope. Hail, Earendil, bearer of light before the sun and moon, splendor of the children of earth, star in the darkness, jewel in the sunset, radiant in the morning.'"
Wow.
Like, ooh, oh, that's flattery. And who are you? Well, it's actually Eonwe, who we met a long time ago, but he didn't get a lot of page time, so I understand if you don't know who or recognize that name. But he is actually one of the Maiar. He's the kind of helper to the Valar. He's actually Manwë's herald, aka his, like, hear ye guy.
His butler.
His butler. And what's funny is when I listen to the audible version of this, it gets really loud. Like, it almost scared me at first. He's like, "Hail, Earendil!" I'm like, oh my God. Like,
I'm not on top of a mountain. You don't need to yell at me.
I know. It turns out, after all, the elves and Valar of Valinor are actually fine. Nothing had happened to them after all. It is like you called it. The streets and cities were empty because they were actually having a festival and everyone was just partying it up in the main city on Valinor that somehow Earendil didn't make his way to or hear the sounds of.
Okay.
Which is ironic.
Like party.
You were right. They do like to party because Tolkien does point out here. Do you remember when Melkor and Ungoliant invaded Valinor? They were also partying then. They just are like nonstop partying up in Valinor.
We gotta forget. They're like,
yeah.
It's boring. Let's have another party.
Yeah. So anyways, Eonwe takes Earendil to meet with the Valar.
Okay.
Quote, "Then the Valar took counsel together, and they summoned Ulmo from the deeps of the sea, and Earendil stood before their faces and delivered the errand of the two kindreds."
So he made it, and he's standing in front of the Valar?
Mm-hmm.
But he's just a man.
He's just a man. Okay, you're Earendil. You have worked for this goal your whole life, basically. You've been wandering the ocean, abandoning your wife and children and your people to find Valinor. You finally did it. Almost even come up out of the ocean. Maybe he's like leaning in from a window. He's like, I gotta be attached to the sea, so can we make this quick, guys? And everyone is just staring at you, waiting to hear what you have to say. So how do you explain shortly, we need your help. Your bad brother, he's been kind of mean. And
he's been real mean to us.
And there's these sons of Fëanor. I don't know if you know them, but they've been really mean too. And I was wondering if you could like help.
It's like in Emperor's New Groove. It's no concern of mine that you have. What was it again?
What was it again?
Food.
Food.
You should have thought. You should have thought of that before you became mortal men.
Well, instead of that, he says, quote, "Pardon," he asked, "for the Noldor, and pity for their great sorrows, and mercy upon men and elves, and succor in their need." And his prayer was granted.
So they listened, finally.
They listened, finally. Apparently the dwarves weren't included in this, and hobbits weren't really a thing yet. So yeah, just mercy for the elves and men, if you please, Valar. We're the good ones. So.
The tall ones.
So with his prayer being granted, I will explain more on that in a minute, Earendil leaves and goes off to find Elwing to tell her the good news. Like, see, honey, I knew I would find Valinor to talk to the Valar someday. Wasn't all that time sailing away and being away from home worth it? See, I told you.
He seems so nice.
Why?
I mean, he did a good job in, like, making it to them and telling them, like, please help us out.
Right. So, anyways, after Earendil leaves, the Valar have a discussion. Now, I don't remember how much you remember about our friends, the Valar, but Mandos, the doomsman of the Valar, he's kind of like the Hades. He's kind of in charge of the dead souls.
But
remember, he's also... But a nicer Hades. But he's also kind of the token buzzkill or the Debbie Downer. Because the minute Earendil leaves, he's like, quote, "Shall mortal men step living upon the undying lands and yet live?" Like, we have to kill him, right?
Yeah. Wait a minute. It's like Coco.
Yeah.
A living boy.
He isn't supposed to step onto our super secret, super special lands of Valinor unless you're on the list, which, let me look at this list here. It says, okay, yeah, Valar, that's us. The Valar's favorite elves, like you guys in the Vanyar. Some elves that have died, like you guys over there. And I think we have one mortal guy, but we made him not mortal anymore. That tour guy, he's probably around here somewhere. But yeah, I don't see any mortals on this list. So we have to kill him. Right?
Dad?
I'm gonna bring that up right now too while we're here. Tor should have been around there somewhere. Where's Tor? How come they couldn't?
Partying it up.
Yeah, it does not talk about them ever seeing each other.
Is he there by himself, or is Rianne?
Rianne's the mom. Tor is married to Idril.
Is she there?
She's supposed to be there too. Yeah. But she's an elf, so that's allowed, but they made the exception for Tor. But yeah, they should have been around there. I feel like that could have been a cool, like, oh, there you are. I've been looking for you.
Yeah.
But no, Tolkien doesn't have that scene. But Olmo, of course, wants to save his friends. He likes his little elf and men friends, and he's like, wait, I have a loophole. Quote, "For this he, being Earendil, was born into the world. And say unto me, whether is he Earendil, Tor, son of the line of Hodor, or the son of Idril, Turgon's daughter of the elven house of Finwë?" Like, in other words, is he technically mortal, or is he technically elf? Because he's half and half. So, loophole.
Loophole.
And I mean, understandably, this circumstance has only come up a few times. There's only been 2 marriages between elves and men, so they haven't come up with like a proper procedure on how to handle it yet. But of course, Bummer Mandos says, quote, "Equally the Noldor, who went willfully into exile, may not return hither." So that took me a minute to figure out, but he's basically saying, well, if you want to use that loophole that he could possibly be more elf than man, then that still doesn't count because of the kind of elf he is, which is Noldor. Because if we go back through his descendants, Earendil's mother was Idril, father was Turgon, father was Thingolfin, who followed his brother Fëanor into exile and all that drama. So yeah, those elves...
cursed.
Yeah, he's cursed. Those elves aren't allowed onto Valinor. So take that, Olmo.
Uno reverse card.
Yes. And then Mon was like, girls, you're both pretty. But name that movie.
This squabbling.
But ultimately, Manwë is the ruler of the Valar. So the final decision should really be up to him. Okay. So as they're hashing it out, all the while, Earendil has just been wandering the streets, meeting the Valar, leaving them to make their decision. Elwing has just been pacing the beach, waiting for Earendil to come back.
Wouldn't that be like days?
There's no concept of time ever in the Silmarillion. Ever. So he's been gone a long time. She's a bit of a clingy one. She's starting to get lonely and afraid, and she's like, I don't know what to do. He's been gone so long. What do I do? So she starts wandering the beach. And she comes across another familiar place on Valinor.
Where they made all the swan boats.
Yeah, good job. Do you remember what that name was?
Yay.
If
No,
I
I
say
don't.
the kinslaying at
Uh,
Alqualande.
okay.
Alqualande. So, yes, like you said, that's the kind of harbor that they had all the pretty swan ships in that Fëanor stole and had his first kinslaying with. Fond memories there. Well, luckily, these Teleri are super nice and immediately befriend Elwing. And Elwing just tells them, so, you guys want to hear about Middle Earth? Because it is not a great place. First of all, my childhood was during this thing called the Ruin of Doria. Not fun. And then, oh my gosh, you should hear my husband's childhood. He grew up during the fall of Gondolin. Yeah, also not good. And a bunch of other bad stuff has happened on our side of the world. So things aren't great in Beleriand just now. And it's really cool here. It must be nice. Guess I've had one kinslaying. We've had like 12, but okay, cool. So the Teleri are just listening to all these stories, and they are just filled with, quote, pity and wonder.
Oh.
Like, like that's
Awkward.
unfortunate. So then somehow Earendil finds Elwing here. I don't know how he didn't even go to this place before, but he knows that she's there now. And together they go back to hear the final decree from the Valar.
Okay.
You ready for this?
Okay.
Quote, the peril that he, Earendil, ventured for love of the two kindreds shall not fall upon Earendil, nor shall it fall upon Elwing, his wife, who entered into peril for love of him. But they shall not walk again, ever, among elves or men in the outer lands, being Middle Earth. In other words, Earendil's heart was in the right place in coming here. Let's not kill the messenger, Mandos. And no, you can't have his wife either. She just came because, frankly, he probably doesn't give her enough attention. But, we can't blame her for that either.
Sad.
Sad.
Keep going.
But we also can't just let them go back to Middle Earth. Once you've seen Valinor, you kind of have to stay. It's kind of the thing. Quote, and this is my decree concerning them, to Earendil and to Elwing and to their sons shall be given leave each to choose freely and to which kindred their fates shall be joined and under which kindred they shall be judged. So in other words, Manwë is giving Earendil and Elwing and their sons, Elros and Elrond, a choice. Do you want to be grouped with the elves or grouped with the men? So after hearing that news, Earendil just turns to Elwing and says, sorry, I should like Earendil. He's a cool guy, but I just have so many issues with him. He says, quote, choose thou, for now I am weary of the world. Like, what a typical husband response. Like, I'm just so tired, babe. You choose.
Yeah, whatever you want, babe.
Whatever you want, babe. Yeah. So Elwing makes the decision. She wants to be grouped with the elves. And she says this is, quote, for Luthien. I don't know if she actually remembers her grandma Luthien or if she just heard stories about how badass she was, but heck yes, for Luthien.
For Luthien.
As for Earendil, quote, for her, meaning Elwing's, sake, Earendil chose alike, though his heart was rather with the kindred of men and the people of his father. Like, such a typical man. Like, I'm tired, babe. You choose where we go to eat. Oh, you want to go to Olive Garden? I mean, I guess if that's what you want. I mean, I was thinking more like Chipotle, but whatever.
I mean, maybe he's being nice. He's like, you can choose. I'll let you choose. I did all the work, but I'll let you choose.
Yeah. But then, shut up and just go with the decision. Don't say, I would rather have gone with the men, but I guess I just made my choice.
Jeez.
But, yeah. Anyways, no take-backsies. Earendil and Elwing have made their final decision. They are going to be grouped with the elves.
So they get to have all the privileges of the elf race now.
Yes. Now, I bet you haven't given Earendil's 3 shipmates a second thought since we left them. But
Mr. Smee?
They actually stayed. Maybe out of loyalty to their friend Earendil. For me, maybe I think it would be more out of like pure curiosity. Like, what's going to happen? Is there going to be an explosion? Are they going to disintegrate? Like, what's going to happen? But either way, they had stayed on the ship, and I'm assuming they just probably like put an anchor a bit offshore from Eldamar. They're not on the land because Earendil told them not to, but they did stay offshore.
Okay.
Well, the Valar can't have anyone else finding loopholes to get onto their precious Valinor. So they decide, you know what, let's send Eonwë, remember that's Monway's herald guy, down to the shore. And I'm sorry, I have so many questions about this next sentence, so just take it bit by bit. You ready?
Okay.
Quote, and he took a boat, and the 3 mariners were set therein, and the Valar drove them away into the east with a great wind.
What? Just put him on a boat. See ya.
Not just me. Because, okay, I have so many questions. Okay, first of all, did they see Eonwë? Or was this just like an invisible force?
Yeah. They're like, okay, this is a cool boat. Wow!
Like, okay, but even if Eonwë could be seen, he's just taking boats? Like, did he, like, make one out of thin air? Like, I really hope he didn't steal a Teleri boat, because we all know what happens when you steal Teleri boats. They've had enough of their boats stolen. Just leave them alone, guys. Like, so somehow Eonwë gets this mysterious boat and sets these 3 mariners in. How does one set 3 humans into a boat? Did he pick them up? Did he borrow some Monwë kind of wind power and like tornado them into the boat? Like,
he blew like poof.
Yeah, and then after these 3 guys are magically placed into this mysterious boat, all of a sudden the Valar are like, okay, now go away. And they send a big gust of wind to send them away.
It's just so funny. It's just a funny...
It's a funny scene in my brain.
A mental image of like, okay, get in the boat. They're like, oh, where are we going? And it's like, goodbye. Yeah.
And do you want to know the craziest bit of this whole scene?
Okay.
The reason I never told you their names are because these guys are never mentioned or heard from again.
Oh, no. They're like, oh, we're going somewhere. Like, we're gonna go help this guy out in his boat. We're gonna go see Valinor. Okay, wait. We're gonna get in this boat. And they were never heard of again.
Well, I mean, okay, so that's one thing. Like, either they were lost at sea, never to be found again, because, like, you know, you have this, you know where Valinor is. We can't trust you. You are basically just gonna die now. Or they went back and Tolkien just decided not to have these like celebrities like, oh my gosh, you've seen Valinor? What is it like? Tell us all about it. Like, they just have no storyline after this.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Like, I feel like they could have gone back and been like, you would not believe what just happened, you guys. First, Elwing was a bird, and then this like Silmaril was like a crazy beacon, and then we got to see Valinor, and then this crazy like wind tornado put us on this other boat, and then we got back.
It was crazy, guys.
It was crazy. But maybe it was like, sure, that happened. You guys be crazy. And no one believed these crazy guys ever again. And then they just turned into like the crazy, like hermit people like that live on the outside of town and be like, don't listen to Crazy Joe over there. He thinks he's been a Valinor.
Yeah. It's like, I was on a ship and then the ship flew away.
Crazy Joe, he doesn't trust birds because you never know when they turn into women, you know.
Yeah. And this bird came and hit my captain in the face, and it had a cool necklace on, and then it became a lady.
So, anyways, the main point of the 3 mariners being gone is that the Valar just really wanted to use Earendil's boat. You know, it was a cool boat. It made with Círdan, and it had golden oars, and it was just a really cool boat that they wanted to use again. Because Vingalot, the foam flower, has a very important role now.
Okay.
So the Valar, quote, hallowed it and bore it away through Valinor to the uttermost rim of the world. And there it passed through the door of night and was lifted up even into the oceans of heaven.
Whoa. Wasn't that where they just were?
No, they're talking about the sky.
Oh, it flew in the air?
Yes, now it can fly.
Like
Peter Pan.
Like in Peter Pan, it is Mr. Smee. I knew it.
But I find the imagery funny here. Like, I've never once thought of nighttime in terms of a door. Through the door of night. I find that term kind of funny. But I do really love the oceans of heaven imagery.
Yes. Very calming.
Yes. Quote, now fair and marvelous was that vessel made, and it was filled with a wavering flame, pure and bright. And Earendil the mariner sat at the helm, glistening with dust of elven gems, and the Silmaril was bound upon his brow. Far he journeyed in that ship, even into the starless voids, but most often was he seen at morning or at evening, glimmering in sunrise or sunset as he came back to Valinor from voyages beyond the confines of this world.
Wow. In his flying ship?
Uh-huh. So Earendil, he's got the Silmaril crown on his head. He's still got the dusty diamond dust, which I'm now calling pixie dust because I feel like that's a thing now. And
it made his ship fly.
Right? And then somehow the diamond dust got on a ship, which makes it fly. So pixie dust is a thing. And because it will never sail the waters of the oceans again, it is now sailing the ocean of the stars.
Whoa. That's pretty cool.
So in this action, Earendil has essentially become the evening star.
Whoa.
And I'm just going to say it, an astronaut.
Whoa. And then I got so caught up with his storyline, but his lady is where?
We'll get to her in 1 second because I'm going to go off on a bit of a side quest here because I really loved this imagery in my brain. And so I did some research on my favorite website. If you haven't been there before, you need to go on there. It's called the Encyclopedia of Arda. It's what I use for everything with this podcast. So I looked up some things about Earendil and the star, and I found this really cool thing. Quote, the fact that the evening star was most visible at the end of the day, as the sun sank below the horizon, also carried a symbolic message. The idea of a shining light of hope appearing as the day came to its end is reflected in the name Undamiel, even star, given to Elrond's daughter, Arwen. Arwen was seen as the last gleam of hope for the elves born into a time when they were fading from Middle-earth, just as the evening star shone out as night began to fall.
Whoa.
How cool is that?
That's pretty awesome.
Right? Okay, and then I just have to make one other link here because this is how my brain works. This whole chapter, I'm like, how does Galadriel give the thing that says, she says it's the light of Earendil, but it's in like a bottle. How? What?
The vial thing?
Yes.
And she calls it a star.
Right. There's like memes in there joking like, and here is some of Elrond's dad in a bottle. Well, I did some research and this is what I found. The evening star had more than a symbolic effect on the history of Middle-earth. It also played a very practical part in the events at the end of the Third Age. The Third Age being the age that the Lord of the Rings was set in. Galadriel was able to capture some of its shining light, and they call it a phial, Phial, but I like vial, which she granted to Frodo the ring bearer as a gift. It was only through the brilliant light of this star glass that Frodo was later able to escape Shelob's lair and continue his quest. So without the light of the evening star, Sauron's ruling ring may never have been destroyed.
It's true.
Yeah. And then I found one more thing, sorry, that I needed. I'm like, but how is it the star? And then she just put it in a bottle, but then where's the star? Like, the star is just no longer in the sky? I was so confused. Sorry, I have many questions. So I found this on lotrfandom.com. Quote, the file of Galadriel seemed to inspire its bearers to call out Elbereth, who, I think we've talked about this before, was a nickname of the Valar Barda. She was kind of in charge of the stars, and Manwë's wife. As both Frodo and Sam called out in Elvish while wielding it, they said Elbereth. Additionally, Frodo calls out Aya, Earendil, Elenion, and Kalima. Remember, he says that even in the movie, he says that when he's like trying to get the vial to turn on, basically.
Okay. Frodo says that? No.
Yeah.
How does he know that, though? Okay, anyway.
Yeah. So, hold on. The first time he used the file against Shelob. Though Frodo did not understand these words, they were in reference to Earendil and translate as Hail Earendil, brightest of the stars in Kenya.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And apparently, this was Googling and didn't put this in my actual outline here because I'm an idiot. But the way that she got the file of the star, and this makes no sense to me, but we're just going to go with it because this is also a fantasy and there has to be some kind of lack of actual logical things. Yeah. So, you know how Galadriel had her mirror pool thing, right? The bowl of water that she looked into. Okay. So apparently when the star of Earendil was reflected in the pool, she literally put that water into a file. And that is how she got the, quote, light of Earendil.
Huh. Well.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had to let that one go. But that's, in case you're wondering how Earendil and the file of Earendil and the light thing all worked, that's how it works.
That's how it works.
Yeah. So sorry for the side quest, but I really wanted to make that link in my brain, and I thought maybe some of you guys did too.
Elendil's Arwen's grandpa.
Earendil, not Elendil.
Earendil.
Yes, you have to make sure.
Grandpa.
Yes.
And he's the star.
Yes.
So it's now more meaningful to me when I see that she has that.
Right?
Necklace now.
Mm-hmm. So Earendil is now sailing amongst the stars. But, like you said, Abby, what happened to Elwing? Well.
Poor girl.
Oh my gosh. I do not understand their relationship at all. Okay, quote. On those journeys, Elwing did not go, for she might not endure the cold and the pathless voids, and she loved rather the earth and the sweet winds that blow on sea and hill.
So is he dead?
He's not dead. He's an astronaut up in the sky, up in the space, in the stars. And that's his job now, is just to sail around in his ship that flies through the stars. But apparently Elwing can't go up there too because it's too cold.
Okay.
So after all that begging to go along with him, she's like, it's cold. Girl, ask the Valar to make you a coat and go be with your man or stop complaining. Like, I can't, I don't know what more I can vote. I can't be on your side anymore, Elwing. I'm sorry. Sorry. That was a bit aggressive, but she didn't get a coat. Is all I'm saying. It's not an easy solution, okay? So she doesn't get a coat. Instead, she gets a tower.
Oh, well. I feel like the tower's cool.
Quote, therefore, there was built for her a white tower northward upon the borders of the seas. And thither at times all the seabirds of the earth repaired. And it is said that Elwing learned the tongue of birds, who herself had once worn their shape. And they taught her the craft of flight. And her wings were of white and silver gray.
Whoa, she turned into a bird?
I have so many questions, Tolkien. You can't just leave these vague things out there.
That's
So,
pretty cool.
but okay, question. Did she turn into a bird again? Or is she able to turn into a bird when she wants to? Or does she somehow have a human body with bird wings?
Like Maleficent?
I'm seeing so many different scenarios.
I'm thinking like Maleficent. That's my...
Okay. But she didn't turn into the bird.
No, with her wings. Like, she just has wings.
Oh, okay. Got you. Okay. So I was thinking more of like a Maui fish hook turn into whatever he wants.
Yeah.
But not a fish hook, obviously.
We'll never know.
We'll never know because Tolkien just left that for people like me to be like, huh, okay. Then I'll never know. These things are to keep me up at night, people. Yes, exactly. So, quote, and at times, when Earendil returning drew near again to Arda, she would fly up to meet him, even as she had flown long ago when she was rescued from the sea. Then the far-sighted among the elves would see her like a white bird, shining rose-stained in the sunset as she soared in joy to greet the coming of Vingalot. Remember, that's Earendil's ship.
Aww.
Like, well, at least she found a hobby to keep her occupied until Earendil decides he wants to visit her. How nice for them. And they lived separately, but every once in a while together, happily ever after.
Aww. Cute.
Yeah.
That's actually a really pretty story, though. Like,
right.
What a cool story. Like, but does Elrond know that that's his dad and mom?
It's not clear, but something that the Rings of Power show did that is kind of a cool little Easter egg is if you notice in his clothing, I can only think of it in the scene where he first comes to Khazad-dûm. He has kind of like feathers, and Durin even kind of makes fun of him, like, you know, your feathery shirts. Feathers, bird, his mother, tribute to his mother.
Oh. So maybe he does know that that's his mom, bird mom.
Right. And I think he does have a lot of scenes where he looks up to the stars. Like he's looking up to his dad.
Cute.
Yeah. Well, that's where we're going to end today.
Aw. It's like a fairy tale. A kind of weird fairy tale.
And then my mom became a bird and my dad became a star.
On a ship. Okay,
but
in the sky.
But then I also had another weird thought. So remember how last week I was like, well, he grew up kind of as a refugee, you know, going from place to place. And he, you know, didn't have really parents that raised him. He grew up with the Sons of Fëanor as his, you know, adopted raisers. And then we're going to learn what happens to them next week. But I feel like that's maybe kind of where they got the impression that he was kind of like lower class, for lack of a better word. That's why he wasn't allowed in the meetings and, you know, wasn't allowed to have a better job in this age.
Poor guy.
I mean, later on, he's like really cool. But at the same time, if people did know about his mom and dad, you think he would have been more praised. Like, wow, your parents were the saviors of, you know, they got to Valinor and they're saved us. We're going to find out next week they saved them. But you know, you think he would have been more praised and more like honored for that. But I feel like that's not a thing.
Yeah.
So
poor guy.
I don't know. He has a pretty sad backstory.
But I still love you, Elrond. Don't worry about it.
Well, make sure to follow us on Instagram at Sisters of the Shire Podcast. You could become a patron on our Patreon at patreon.com/Sisters of the Shire Podcast. You could join our elf friend of the Shire, Krishane, and our dwarf friend of the Shire, Dan, in their awesomeness.
Who does awesome woodworking if you want to follow Dan.
Yes, it's so pretty.
His Instagram handle is Twiggy, TWIGGY _woodstuff, WOODSTUFF. Go check him out. Go check his Instagram out. Look at all his beautiful woodworking things he does. It's awesome. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah. And he says he listens to us while he works, and I absolutely love that because that's what I do too. I listen to podcasts and stuff.
Thank you for those who rate and review. Please do so
yes,
on Spotify,
please.
Apple Podcasts, Google
all of the
Podcast. Is there a Google
things.
Podcast?
Abby, for our birthday, are you ready for how many
Oh,
plays
yeah, it's
we've
our
had
birthday still.
in a year?
Happy birthday. Okay,
Are you ready?
What?
How many plays have we had in the year that we've had this podcast?
800.
4,000.
That exceeded my expectations.
Yes.
No way.
We have had, people have listened to our episodes. I mean, it's not like each episode has 4,000 plays, but over the span of all of our episodes, all 45, and then the bonus ones that we did, 4,095.
Whoa. Well, thank you for all of those 4,000 plays, everyone. That's amazing.
Yeah, and thank you for all of you who have stuck with us through our year-long journey. We hope you at least entertained.
Well, we love you all, and thank you for teaching me today.
You're welcome. Until next week, I've been Ashley.
And I'm Abby, and this has been the Sisters of the Shire podcast. We'll see you next time. Bye!
Bye!